never made it to their destination. Adolf Solfadt, the German chairman of a chemists and distillers company, was transporting these vials of essential oils to New York in hopes of marketing them there and expanding his business to the United States. While Adolf was able to escape the Titanic on a lifeboat, his essential oils weren't so lucky. These vials were found and retrieved during a Titanic expedition in 2000. David Pitus, a perfume historian, successfully recreated some of the oils using their original chemical composition. One of the vials had violet-scented oil and another had rose-scented oil. Did you get that? Rose-scented? Now at number 7, we have this chef hat that belonged to 3rd Baker William Edward Hyde, a 36-year-old Englishman who had previously worked in the kitchen aboard the Olympic, Titanic's sister ship. William, along with his brother-in-law Frederick Charles Godwin, died with the Titanic, and their bodies were never found. Because William was unmarried, his sister Emily and his father Henry were notified of his death. Years later, William Hyde's chef hat was recovered from the Titanic wreck, and because his full name was embroidered on the brim, it was easy to identify whose hat it was. Next up at number 6, we have this rare Kodak Brownie camera that belonged to Bernice Palmer. Bernice, a 17-year-old Canadian girl aboard the Carpathia, the ship that rescued Titanic's survivors, snapped a photo of what is believed to be the iceberg that sank the Titanic. She also took pictures of the Titanic survivors aboard the Carpathia and described the moment they were lifted onto the ship, stating, "Their faces looked frozen and terrified." She also noted that many of the women were wearing the oversized coats of the men who died on the Titanic. An unnamed newsman saw Bernice taking the photos and offered her a measly $10 for the rights to the photos she had taken. This is the contract that Bernice hastily signed, not realizing the exceptional value of her photos. Bernice later donated her camera and photographs to the Smithsonian in 1986. And at number 5, this is the life jacket worn by Madeline Astor, who was John Jacob Astor IV's wife. Madeline was 18 years old and 5 months pregnant when the Titanic sank, and John was 47. Because Madeline was a first-class passenger and wife to the richest man on the Titanic, she of course would have had preferential treatment. However, she boarded one of the last lifeboats that left the Titanic. Once the Carpathia recovered her lifeboat, Madeline's life jacket was removed and placed in the office of Gottlieb Rencher, who was the senior attendant in charge to the Carpathia's surgeon. Rencher kept the life jacket and displayed it in his office in New York for many years. Madeline gave birth to a healthy baby boy on August 14, 1912, and named him John Jacob Astor VI. Next over at number 4, we have Wallace Hartley's violin. Wallace, a 33-year-old Englishman, was the violinist and bandleader of the Titanic band. His violin, made from rosewood, was a gift to Wallace in 1910 from his fiancée, Maria Robinson, and is engraved with the following: "For Wallace, on the occasion of our engagement, from Maria." As the Titanic was sinking, light-hearted tunes arose from this violin, as well as the other instruments in the Titanic's band. Wallace's body was recovered 10 days after the sinking, and his violin was in a leather case strapped around him. The violin was quite possibly stolen by one of the men recovering the bodies and remained hidden from the public until 2006, when it was discovered in an attic in England. Forensic scientists conducted a thorough analysis of the violin and confirmed that it was in fact the very same violin that Wallace Hartley played. The violin sold at auction for $1.7 million in 2013. And at number 3, this is the last known letter written by a Titanic passenger. It was penned by New York businessman Alexander Oscar Holgerson on April 13, 1912, only one day before the Titanic struck the iceberg. Holgerson had written the letter to his mother to tell her about his experiences on the ship. He describes the music, food, and fellow passenger John Jacob Astor IV, who was the richest man in the world at that time. He looks like any other human being, even though he has millions of money. They sit out on the deck with the rest of us. The letter ends with this foreboding sentence: "If all goes well, we will arrive in New York Wednesday a.m." Unfortunately, Holgerson was not among the survivors, and this letter was later recovered along with his body. Now coming down to number 2, we have the iconic bronze cherub from one of the upper levels of the Titanic's grand staircase. Now, this grand staircase was a truly stunning sight. Topped with an iron and glass dome, it elegantly cascaded down 6 of Titanic's decks and was graced with inlaid wood and gilded ornaments like this bronze cherub. And the grand staircase was more than just a set of stairs for passengers to ascend and descend to upper and lower decks. It also served as a gathering place for first-class passengers to attend exclusive dinner meetups and to hobnob with other upper-class passengers before visiting the Turkish baths. It is believed that the cherub lost its left foot when the salvage crew ripped it from its post in the 1987 RMS Titanic Incorporated expedition. And finally, at number 1, this is the final first-class lunch menu from the Titanic. Notice the date, April 14, 1912, the same day the Titanic hit the iceberg. Abraham Lincoln Sullivan, an American first-class passenger, took the menu with him when he boarded lifeboat number 1. As you can see, the menu includes quite the array of appetizers and entrees, many of which I won't even try to pronounce. If you had been on the Titanic and were eating your final meal, what would you want it to be? Dive down to the comment section and share your final meal aboard the Titanic. Now, I know you are hungry for more fascinating stories of real people on the Titanic, and that video on the screen right now is your ticket. You will meet people like Anne, who wouldn't leave the Titanic without her dog. Go ahead and click that video so we can dive into those amazing Titanic stories together, and I will see you there in the next video.
Enjoy your food.
Advertisement 15 seconds. Ad will end in 15.
Singapore. A first-year annual fee waiver and free Accor Plus membership. It's the card that means business. Apply now for a limited time only.
Up next, Titanic Real-Time Syncing. Featuring edition based. Loaded.